Imagine waking up tomorrow, grabbing your coffee, turning on your favorite streaming app.
Right, just your normal morning routine.
Exactly. And you hear a brand new song on one of those premiere playlists, and the production is just flawless.
Oh, of course.
The melody is catchy. But, and here's the crazy part, the lead singer is you.
Which is just a wild thing to experience.
It really is. It's your exact vocal tone, singing lyrics you never even wrote, expressing this deep heartbreak you have never actually felt.
Yeah, a totally fabricated emotion.
Right. And in 2026, that is no longer a science fiction nightmare. I mean, it is the daily reality of the music industry right now.
It's happening every single day.
We aren't theorizing about what artificial intelligence might do to music tomorrow. We are unpacking what it has already done today.
Because the timeline just accelerated so fast.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a stack of sources that basically serve as a survival guide for this entirely new era.
A much-needed survival guide, honestly.
For sure, because the market has absolutely sprinted past the lawyers. I mean, whether you are a bedroom producer, a legacy artist, or, just a listener trying to figure out what is even real anymore, understanding this landscape is totally mandatory.
Yeah, the theoretical debates are officially over. Like the lawsuits, the ethical hand-wringing.
All the think pieces.
Right, all of that is just background noise now to the actual reality on the ground. AI is actively sorting the industry right now into winners and losers.
Which is terrifying, but also kind of
It
fascinating.
really is. We are going to look at 5 major ways this technology has reconstructed the factory floor of music and connect the dots so you can actually navigate it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Segment 1, we really have to start with the sheer scale of the invasion.
The numbers are just staggering.
They really are, because you cannot understand how the industry is behaving right now without understanding the absolute volume of content hitting the servers.
Yeah, the infrastructure is just overwhelmed.
Right. So according to the data, by late 2025, Deezer reported receiving over 50,000 fully AI-generated tracks every single day.
Yeah, and that number requires some context to really fully grasp.
Please, because 50,000 just sounds like a fake number.
I know it does. But 50,000 tracks a day translates to roughly 1/3 of all new uploads to the entire platform.
Wait, a third? Just pure AI.
A third, just generated out of nowhere. If you assume an average song length of, say, 3 minutes, that is 2,500 hours of synthetic audio appearing out of thin air every 24 hours.
That's literally impossible for humans to keep up with.
Exactly. It is an industrial-scale manufacturing of sound.
Yeah.
It's not people in studios anymore.
The best way I can visualize this is like an invasive species entering a physical ecosystem.
Oh, I like that. Like what?
Think about kudzu vines being introduced to a forest.
Right, down in the south.
Yeah, because the vine grows like a foot a day and it has 0 natural predators. It doesn't just coexist with the trees, it literally suffocates them.
It just blankets everything.
Exactly. Uploading a song used to be like planting a tree. You hope it gets sunlight, you hope it grows. Now, the digital ecosystem is entirely choked by these synthetic vines.
That kudzu analogy is highly accurate, actually, because of how it impacts the underlying structure of the platforms.
How so?
Well, this volume of synthetic audio degrades the entire user experience. And more importantly, it breaks the algorithmic discovery models.
Oh, because the algorithm gets confused.
Right. A recommendation algorithm doesn't know how to surface good music when it is literally drowning in noise. It just breaks.
That makes so much sense.
That is why Spotify, over a single 12-month period, quietly removed more than 75 million tracks.
Like 55 million.
For being spam or low quality. And the vast majority of those removals were fully AI generated. The platforms are now forced to act as aggressive park rangers just to keep the ecosystem functional.
So how does that actually work in practice? Are they just mass deleting accounts? Or sending cease and desists?
It's a bit more sophisticated than that. Deezer, for instance, didn't just quietly delete the tracks. They started actively labeling fully AI-generated songs.
Oh, like a warning label.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And then systematically removing them from algorithmic playlists. They essentially built a digital fence.
Wow, so they just quarantine them.
Exactly. If a track is flagged as purely synthetic, it gets demonetized in terms of discovery. It will not show up in your Discover Weekly or, your personalized mixes.
So if algorithmic discovery is essentially barricaded against pure AI, what is the required skill set to get past those gatekeepers? Because it clearly isn't just making a song that sounds good anymore.
No, sounding good is the baseline now. The new competitive advantage relies heavily on verified human intent.
Verified human intent. That sounds very dystopian.
I mean, it comes down to technical documentation. Metadata. When you upload a track now, you aren't just sending an audio file to a distributor.
Right, you can't just drop an MP3 and call it a day.
Exactly. You're sending a massive data package. ISRC codes, session timestamps, and literal cryptographic proofs of human involvement.
So you have to prove you were actually in the room making it.
Precisely. How you categorize and verify your workflow is what actually gets you past that algorithmic fence.
Which brings up a huge point. This flood of content doesn't just annoy listeners, it directly threatens the financial bottom line of the platform.
Oh, absolutely. Follow the money.
Right. Which leads us to segment 2. Streaming platforms aren't hiding these tracks just to keep their playlists tidy. They are fundamentally changing who gets paid.
Yeah, this is where the algorithmic arms race gets very real.
Because it's about the payout pool, right?
Exactly. Platforms are building their own AI detection systems for a very specific financial reason, which is royalty eligibility.
Because they don't want to pay robots.
Right. Deezer was really the canary in the coal mine here, launching their AI detection systems back in 2025.
Okay, let me stop you there, because the mechanics of this are just fascinating to me. How does an AI detection system actually identify an AI song?
It's tricky, right?
Yeah. Isn't the whole point of these models that the audio is completely indistinguishable from a human recording?
To us, yes. It might sound indistinguishable to the human ear, but on a spectral level, machines leave fingerprints.
What kind of fingerprints?
Well, these detection systems are scanning for things like perfect digital quantization or an unnatural lack of background room noise.
Oh, like it's too quiet in the background.
Exactly. Or anomalies in how the frequencies sit in the mix. They're essentially using machine learning to detect the absence of human error.
Wow. They're looking for the mistakes we make to prove we made it.
You nail it. And the industry consensus in our source material points to Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon entirely adopting this.
Because they have to.
Right. They're using these detection systems to enforce tiered royalty models.
Wait, a tiered model effectively creates a digital caste system for payouts. How severe is the penalty if you get flagged as AI?
It's incredibly severe. In these tiered frameworks, fully AI-generated content earns significantly less per stream.
Like pennies on the dollar.
Or in some cases, absolutely nothing from the primary royalty pool. They just get cut out.
Wow. Who pushed for that? The platforms.
The major labels forced this issue, actually. Yeah, their argument was really simple. They basically said, protect the financial pot for human artists, or we will take our massive legacy catalogs and walk away from your platform entirely.
Which would kill the platform.
Instantly. What's fascinating here is how this abruptly shifts the paradigm for producers.
How so?
While using AI is no longer just a creative choice, the guardrails are entirely financial now.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the daily workflow of an artist sitting in their bedroom studio right now?
It establishes what the industry is calling the hybrid sweet spot.
The hybrid sweet spot, okay.
Yeah, pure unprompted AI generation is a financial dead end.
Yeah.
But human artistry that is heavily powered by AI tools, that is the only viable path forward.
Give me a tangible example of that hybrid workflow. Like, what am I actually doing?
Sure. You might use an AI tool to stem out a vocal, which just means isolating the vocal track perfectly from the rest of a really noisy recording.
Right. Cleaning it up.
Exactly. Or you might use generative software to brainstorm like hundreds of chord progressions in 10 seconds.
Just to get the ideas flowing.
Right. But the core compositional structure, the lyrical intent, and the final polish must be undeniably human to qualify for those premium royalty tiers.
You know, it reminds me of the trajectory of Auto-Tune back in the mid-2000s.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, because originally Auto-Tune was this invisible tool used to secretly fix bad singing. You weren't supposed to know it was there.
Yeah, engineers hit it.
But then artists like T-Pain came along and pushed the software to its absolute limit, using it as a deliberate, highly visible instrument to express a totally new kind of human creativity.
Exactly. The tool became the instrument.
Yeah, the platform doesn't care if you use the tool. They care if you are the one swinging the hammer.
That is a much more accurate parallel. The platforms are getting incredibly rigorous about checking receipts to make sure a human is actually swinging that hammer.
And this is a big but. If these platforms are actively starving pure AI tracks of royalties, we really have to talk about how those AI tracks were made in the first place.
Oh, yes. The origin story of the data.
Right. These generative models didn't just wake up one morning knowing how to write a perfect pop hook. They were trained.
Very aggressively trained.
And according to the sources, they were trained on a massive, murky soup of existing copyrighted music. Which brings us to segment 3.
We are firmly in the Wild West of rights and licensing now. It is a mess.
So how did this usually work?
Well, the traditional model of licensing was entirely built on upfront consent.
Right, like clearing a sample.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you wanted to use a sample of a drum break in the 1990s, the legal precedent became very clear. You call the publisher, you negotiate a fee, and then you release the song.
Permission first, art second.
Right. Today, in 2026, that model is completely inverted,
The sources refer to this as downstream licensing.
which is a very polite term.
It really is. It essentially means the major AI companies scrape the internet, ingest decades of copyrighted music to train their massive neural networks, build the product,
Sell the product.
right, sell it, and only attempt to negotiate licenses after the fact.
They are framing this approach as risk mitigation, if you can believe it.
Risk mitigation.
For who?
For them. They build the model first to see if it is commercially viable, and then they deal with the legal fallout as just a standard operational expense.
I have to challenge the framing of risk mitigation, though. That is incredible corporate spin.
Masterful spin.
Because what it ultimately is an ask for forgiveness, not permission business model. They take the raw materials of an artist's entire life's work, build a machine that mimics them perfectly, and then, offer a fraction of a penny in compensation once the machine is already operating.
It is highly controversial, and Forbes is predicting a massive wave of lawsuits because of it, specifically from legacy artists. Why legacy artists specifically?
Well, consider the artists who sold their entire publishing catalogs a few years ago during that massive wave of equity buyouts. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Everybody was cashing out.
Right. They took a lump sum payout, operating under the assumption that they were just selling the rights to their old hits for use in, like, commercials or movies.
They sold the sheet music and the master recordings. They didn't think they were selling their actual creative DNA to train a machine.
Precisely. They are now discovering that their distinct signature voice, or a highly specific guitar tone, was fed into an AI system without their explicit personal consent.
That is heartbreaking.
It is. And because they no longer held the legal copyright paper, they had no say in the matter. The equity firms made the deal.
So for the listener out there who is actually making music right now, what is the defense mechanism here? How do you protect yourself?
You have to document everything. I cannot stress this enough. If you own your rights, register your works early,
Get the paperwork done.
immediately. And on a technical level, you need to consistently bounce your stems.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, save the individual isolated audio layers of your track, like the drums, the bass, and the vocals. Save them all separately. Keep your raw session files and timestamp your creative process.
I see where you're going with the documentation, but I have to push back a little here.
Okay, go for it.
You're saying attribution is the new battleground. But if these massive companies have already scraped the internet for the last 5 years, isn't it kind of too late?
I hear you're saying.
Like, the toothpaste is completely out of the tube? What good is a timestamp on my laptop if the AI model already knows exactly how to mimic my style?
It is a fair critique. The internet has already been scraped. You can't unscrape it.
Right.
But documentation isn't just about stopping a model from training on your past work. It's about proving you are a human in the future.
Oh, okay, wait. Elaborate on that.
Think about it. When an AI generates a song that sounds exactly like you, and you release a real song on the exact same day, your timestamp session files are the only cryptographic proof that your track belongs in the premium royalty tier.
And the AI track belongs in the spam filter.
Exactly. You are proving your humanity to the distributor, not just fighting the AI developer.
Wow. Okay, that perfectly sets up the strangest and honestly, arguably the most optimistic shift in this entire landscape.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Because with all this artificial perfection churning out of the servers, remember, 50,000 flawless tracks a day, you would think the human artist is just obsolete.
You'd think we'd just give up.
Right. But counterintuitively, the exact opposite is happening.
Yeah, the sheer volume of artificial perfection is actually driving up the value of human imperfection.
Which is just basic economics, really.
It is the basic economic principle of scarcity. When AI can generate a technically flawless, perfectly mixed pop song in 12 seconds, technical perfection ceases to be impressive.
See, it's just become standard.
It becomes sonic wallpaper. Nobody cares.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources from Forbes literally coined a term for this phenomenon. They call it the human creator premium.
The human creator premium.
Oh, yes. Art is no longer valued strictly for how it sounds. It is heavily valued for who made it and why they made it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can look at the invention of the camera.
Oh, that's a good historical parallel.
Right. When the camera was invented, painters panicked because suddenly a machine could capture perfect visual reality instantly.
It felt like the end of painting.
Exactly. But the camera didn't kill painting. It birthed Impressionism. Because hyperrealism was no longer scarce, painters realized their value wasn't in capturing reality perfectly, but in capturing emotion, light, and perspective.
That is a brilliant analogy. AI is doing the exact same thing to audio right now.
Yes, when the audio is perfectly generated, audiences naturally start to crave the friction of a real person.
They crave the story behind it. For instance, an algorithm can perfectly clone the delay pedal settings of a famous guitarist, meaning, it can copy that specific echoing audio effect flawlessly.
Down to the millisecond.
Right. But it cannot copy the fact that the guitarist wrote the song after losing a parent. And the listener's knowledge of that real human grief changes how the song is consumed.
The context becomes the product. A creator's personal story is now their single biggest competitive advantage.
So you have to share your story.
You have to. Producers and artists who actively communicate their process, who show their messy studio sessions, who talk openly about their perspective and their struggles, those are the ones successfully standing apart from the algorithmic noise.
And if you don't,
if you only present a perfectly polished final audio file and hide your process, you will literally be mistaken for a machine.
Which means no premium royalties for you.
Exactly.
But leaning into your messy human story doesn't mean you just reject the technology altogether. The sources are very clear that ignoring AI is professional suicide.
Oh, you can't ignore it. It's a tool.
You don't reject it. You just change where you deploy it. Which brings us to the final major shift in the 2026 landscape. Segment 5. The leap from generative AI to agentic AI.
This is where things get really sci-fi, but in a good way.
Yeah. We have spent a lot of time discussing generative AI, systems that make music. Agentic AI is an entirely different category.
It really is.
Yeah.
It is the shift from a passive tool that just responds to a prompt to an active system that coordinates workflows and completes multi-step tasks across different software ecosystems.
And it does this without human supervision.
Yes, completely autonomously.
So if generative AI is like buying a state-of-the-art synthesizer, agentic AI is like hiring a hyper-competent band manager who hustles for your career in the background?
That is the perfect way to put it. Microsoft, IBM, and various industry analysts all flagged 2026 as the tipping point where this transition finally hit the mainstream music industry.
So how does a musician actually interface with an AI agent? Like, what is it actually doing all day?
It operates largely in the background via API integrations, which is essentially just software talking directly to other software.
Okay, give me a scenario.
Let's say you finish a track in your studio. You're done with the creative part. You hand the final file to your AI agent.
Like dropping it in a folder.
Exactly. The agent automatically generates the ISRC codes and all that cryptographic metadata we discussed earlier, the stuff required to pass the platform detection systems.
Wow, so you don't have to fill out those awful forms.
Nope. It then cross-references global licensing databases to flag any potential copyright strikes before you even hit publish.
It's literally doing all the mind-numbing administrative work.
It goes even further than that, though. The agent analyzes massive sets of streaming data to determine the statistically optimal day and time for your specific genre to be released.
Are you serious?
Yes. It drafts the press release, and it submits the pitch directly to the Spotify for Artists portal on your behalf.
It takes all the soul-crushing logistics that usually pull an artist out of their creative flow state and just completely automates them.
The ultimate takeaway here is leverage. The creators who learn to direct AI agents, operating more like a CEO managing a staff, are gaining a massive advantage.
Because they buy their time back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the agent handles the logistics of distribution and copyright mitigation, the human artist gets to spend 80% of their time focusing purely on that human creator premium.
Writing the songs, documenting their story, connecting with the fans.
Doing the human stuff.
It is a total reconstruction of what it means to be a working musician.
It really is a completely new era.
So when we step back and look at the entire 2026 survival guide we've just unpacked, I mean the massive daily flood of synthetic tracks, the platform gatekeeping through metadata, the downstream licensing chaos, the incredible value of human authenticity, and the deployment of these AI agents to manage the back office.
A lot to take in.
It is. So what is the synthesized takeaway for the listener today?
The core message is actually quite grounding, I think. AI is not replacing the music industry. It is aggressively sorting it.
It is sorting it. The flood is just washing away the people who were only in it for a quick synthetic hit.
Exactly. The creators who survive and thrive are the ones who understand the mechanics of the platforms, protect their rights through rigorous documentation, and intentionally lead with a vulnerable, authentic human perspective.
They will be more relevant and highly valued than ever before.
Without a doubt. The creators who treat AI as a cheap shortcut to avoid the hard work of being human, they will simply be filtered out by the algorithms and lost in the noise.
The question for anyone listening today is no longer whether AI is involved in the music you make or the music you stream.
It is entirely integrated. You can't escape it.
Right. The only question that matters is whether you are navigating it with intention.
And this raises an important question, something for you to mull over long after we sign off today.
Oh, laid it on us.
Well, we have established that audiences are desperately craving the authentic, messy human story to combat all this artificial perfection.
Right.
They want the why behind the music.
You want the real emotion.
But what happens when an AI is eventually programmed to generate its own compelling, deeply flawed, and emotional backstory?
Oh, wow.
If an algorithm can invent a digital persona complete with fabricated struggles, heartbreaks, and artistic intentions that feel entirely viscerally real, will you, as a listener, even be able to tell the difference between a genuine human story and a perfectly crafted artificial one?
Man, that is the ultimate test of the human heart, isn't it? What an incredible thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We hope this survival guide helps you navigate the noise and find the signal out there. Keep questioning what you hear, stay fiercely authentic, and most importantly, stay curious. We will catch you next time.